The bank terminal exploded 1 second after it rejected my final payment. When I opened my eyes, a crystal taller than a man announced to 400 strangers that I possessed exactly 0 mana. For a moment, the testing hall was silent. Then someone laughed. The sound spread through the rows like spilled oil. Young nobles pointed at me. Recruits from the villages covered their mouths. Even the clerks behind the registration desks stopped stamping papers. I kept my hand on the blue crystal. It had turned gray from top to bottom. Instructor Brenor looked at the result and rubbed his forehead. "Calder," he said loudly. 0 reserve, 0 affinity, 0 projected growth. 3 zeros appeared on the ranking board above us. My name fell past every other applicant and stopped at place 400. The laughter doubled. I had been alive in this world for less than 5 minutes, and I was already last. That was efficient. Memories arrived in broken pieces. The body belonged to an orphan who had studied for 6 years to enter the Royal Academy and spent his final coin reaching the capital. None of that mattered to the crystal. Brenor lifted my examination sheet. "Your theory score is excellent. Unfortunately, books do not kill monsters." "Traps do," I said. "Poison does. Falling rocks do." Several applicants stopped laughing. Brenor did not. And when a dungeon has no convenient rock, I would bring one. That earned a few new laughs. One came from the front row. A tall girl with silver hair did not join them. She watched me as if she had noticed the answer hidden behind a bad joke. Brenor placed a red stamp on my paper. "Rejected from the magic faculty. Scholarship canceled. Dormitory place canceled. Raid candidacy canceled." I looked at the stamp. The Academy Charter says the highest theory student receives a scholarship. His smile tightened. "The capital pays us according to average mana reserve. If I accept you, the faculty loses potions and healers. I will not trade 100 useful lives for one old rule." His motive made sense. His method did not. "Then place me on another faculty and preserve the scholarship. Ordinary soldiers do not receive mage scholarships." He stamped my paper again. "You will report to the common soldier yard. You may sleep in its equipment shed until you can pay for a bed. If you dislike that choice, the south gate is open." The ranking board flashed. My status changed from applicant to burden. That was the exact word. The hall erupted. One boy asked whether I had enough mana to power a lamp. Another offered me an empty cup and told me to fill it. "Your cup already contains my full reserve," I said. Several recruits laughed at him instead. Brenor waved toward 2 guards. "Remove him. We still have real candidates to test." The silver-haired girl stepped out of the first row. Her name, Alara, stood at the top of the board. Her reserve was 800 units. The second highest applicant had less than 500. "His theory score was perfect," she said. "You did not test his control." Brenor kept his voice polite. "Control of what?" The crowd laughed again. Alara did not. "That is what a test is meant to discover. Return to your place. Your future is too valuable to spend on a dead branch." She looked at me once, not with pity. Pity looked down. She looked straight at me. The guards pushed me through the side doors while the hall laughed behind me. The soldier yard smelled of leather, wet sand, and old cabbage. A clerk gave me a blunt spear, a gray coat, and a wooden tag marked with the lowest supply grade. He pointed toward a shed beside the stables. "Your room." The shed contained 3 cracked shields, 6 sacks of turnips, and a chicken that clearly owned the place. It pecked my boot when I put down my bag. That was when a calm voice spoke inside my head. It told me that the world had measured my natural mana correctly. My reserve was 0. My body could never store even 1 unit. Then it offered me 3 names for the same hidden path. Debtor of Mana was available now. Archmage of Borrowed Power required 1,000 units of cleared debt. Heavenly Creditor required a voluntary second borrower. I chose it. The voice explained the only gift of my class. I could cast without a reserve. The mana would arrive at the instant of use. Every unit spent would become principal. Interest depended on time, danger, and my chance of repayment. My opening limit was 100 units. A normal loan lasted 1 day. If my balance passed the limit, no new credit would be granted. If I failed to pay, ownership of my body would transfer piece by piece to the creditor. There was only power delivered before payment. I liked honest danger. A target board stood behind the shed. I raised one finger toward it and pictured the simplest spell from the body's theory lessons. Fire Spark. The voice quoted the price before the spell formed. 10 units of principal. 1 unit of interest if paid within a day. I accepted. A red spark jumped from my finger. It crossed the yard, struck the center of the board, and burned a neat hole through 3 layers of wood. The chicken stopped pecking my boot. The clerk dropped his ledger. Ilara stood at the gate with my canceled scholarship paper in her hand. All 3 of them had seen it. The clerk pushed a finger through the smoking hole. That was a real spell. The fake version cost too much, I said. Ilara crossed the yard slowly. The crystal said 0. It was right. You just spent at least 10 units. Also right. She waited for the rest. I did not explain the voice or the claim on 11 units of my future. A useful secret should not be thrown across a crowded room. Ilara held out my paper. I made Brenor write the real reason for the cancellation. If you appeal later, this will matter. Why help me? Everyone else saw an empty reserve. You saw a calculation. That was the first time anyone in this world had seen me instead of my number. Before I could answer, the soldier yard bell rang. The clerk picked up his ledger. Emergency training raid. The Western practice gate opened early. All available first-year squads must enter before sunset. Ilara frowned. First-year raids begin next month. Dean Auric moved the schedule. The academy needs fresh cores for tomorrow's capital inspection. The clerk looked at the hole and added me to the raid. An hour later, I stood before a dungeon gate with 20 recruits and 1 blunt spear. Brenor commanded the exercise. He had changed into red combat robes. A silver badge on his chest identified him as a rank B mage. He saw me in the rear line and his jaw tightened. Who added the burden? The clerk raised one hand. He demonstrated combat ability. With a spear? The clerk looked at the smoking mark still visible on my sleeve. Something like that. Ilara joined the mage line. She carried a white staff and wore light armor. Brenor placed her at the center of the formation, where every instructor and observer could see the academy's greatest new talent. He placed me beside the supply cart. You will carry cores, he said. Do not cast. Do not touch a formation. Do not create a problem that useful people must solve. More than 50 senior students watched from the stands. Above them, my name remained at place 400 under the words, no combat value. I had 11 units of debt and no way to repay them. Then a horned rabbit jumped from the gate. One soldier struck it with a shield. I hit the base of its skull with my spear. A cloudy core rolled from its chest. The voice valued it at 12 units. I touched it and ordered full repayment. The core became gray dust. 11 units vanished from my balance. 1 unit remained as waste because my body could not store it. The voice announced that my first loan had been cleared early. My limit rose from 100 to 120. I had spent 1 spell, killed 1 monster, and finished with no debt. The senior students saw only a soldier kill a rabbit. Ilara saw the core turn gray, and her eyes narrowed. We entered the practice dungeon. The first chambers held stone rats and thorn lizards. The recruits collected 16 small cores. Every time I approached one, Brenor's assistant kicked it toward the mage basket. Faculty property, Brenor said. Porters do not receive shares. I noted the rule. Brenor kept glancing at the recording crystals. The capital inspection decided his promotion and budget. That explained why he had erased me and told me what he feared. Public failure. The 5th chamber should have contained a practice guardian worth 40 units. It contained an iron ogre taller than the gate. The creature unfolded from the darkness with chains wrapped around both arms. Its skin looked like a castle wall that had learned to hate people. 1 red eye opened, then the second. The measuring crystal screamed, rank S. The observers in the stands went silent. Brenor went pale. The ogre swung 1 chain. It smashed the front formation and sent 6 shield users across the chamber. Brenor raised a fire barrier. The chain passed through it and struck him into a pillar. His red robes folded around him like an angry curtain. Ilara took command. Her first ice wall held for 3 seconds. Her second held for 2. The ogre broke both and kept walking. The senior observers saw everything through the crystals. So did the applicants in the testing hall. The live raid ranking flashed above the gate. Ilara's projected survival chance fell from 70% to 12%. Brenor crawled from the pillar and ordered a retreat, but the ogre had crushed the gate's control stone. Panic moved through the recruits. Their formation became a crowd. Interest whispered inside my head before I had borrowed anything. The system was measuring the danger. I counted 20 recruits, 7 injured, and less than 100 units left in Ilara. Brenor had enough for 1 rank B spell. The ogre could survive 10. My safe limit was 120. The spell I needed cost 1,000. The voice offered one emergency overdraw. Principal would be 1,000 units. Risk interest would be 300. My balance would exceed my limit, so all later credit would lock until I repaid enough. My left little finger would become immediate security. If the balance remained after 1 day, the claim would spread to my hand. It was a terrible agreement. The alternative had teeth and a chain. Alara's third ice wall shattered. She fell to one knee. Brenor pointed at her. "Protect Alara. Everyone else is replaceable." Every recruit heard him. So did every observer. The common soldiers stopped moving toward him. I walked past Brenor and planted my blunt spear in the floor. "Calder," Alara said. "What are you doing?" "Taking a loan." The ogre raised both chains. I accepted 1,000 units of principal and 300 units of interest. Power entered my body without staying there. It rushed through my nerves like a river passing through an empty pipe. My reserve remained 0. The crystal near the wall confirmed it. 0 reserve, 1 active spell. That was the rule I had broken. I lifted my hand. Flame tempest. Fire filled the chamber like a burning house falling from the sky. A red spiral wrapped around the ogre. Its chains melted. Its armor turned white. The storm entered its open mouth. The ground shook for 7 breaths. When the fire vanished, the rank S-Guardian was gone. Only a black core remained in a circle of glass. No one spoke. The soldiers lowered their shields. Brenor stared at me, as if the equipment shed had stood up and punched him. Alara was the first to move. She walked to the measuring crystal and placed her hand on it. "Read Calder's reserve." The crystal showed 0. She pointed toward the crater. "Read the spell." The crystal identified a rank S flame tempest with a cost of 1,000 units. The observers outside exploded into noise. The live board removed the words, "No combat value." My name rose from place 400 to place 120. The common soldiers began shouting my name. Brenor pushed himself upright. He used a hidden artifact. "Search him." I turned both empty pockets outward. A piece of turnip fell from one. "Very dangerous," I said. The recruits laughed at Brenor this time. His face darkened. Alara picked up the black core. "The recordings captured everything. If every crystal is broken, the capital inspectors may ask what you have been managing." That struck the correct place. Brenor looked at the senior students, the soldiers he had called replaceable, and the ranking board. "Calder participated in the victory," he said through his teeth. "Participated?" the clerk asked from the stands. Alara held the core above her head. "Who killed the Guardian?" 20 recruits answered at once. "Calder." The answer echoed into the testing hall. Brenor had wanted a public result. He received one. The academy awarded me 30 gold coins, enough to rent a room for half a year. The soldier faculty promoted me from porter to combat trainee. My supply grade rose by 3 levels, and the board kept me at place 120. My strength, money, and status had all climbed before sunset. My debt was 1,300 units. The Academy claimed the Ogre Core as compensation for damage to the dungeon. Its value was at least 800 units. Brenor signed the confiscation order while looking directly at me. I did not argue. Not yet. An enemy who stole your ladder was useful. He showed you which wall he planned to climb. That evening, Alara found me moving out of the equipment shed. The chicken watched from the doorway. It had won the property dispute. She carried a basket covered by a white cloth. "The dining hall closed before the raid report ended," she said. "I brought food." We sat above a baker's shop. She uncovered warm meat pies with brown crusts. They smelled of pepper, onions, and roasted beef. Small potatoes shone with butter and salt. 2 honey cakes waited beneath them. I had faced a rank S monster without shaking. The first bite of the pie almost defeated me. The crust broke softly. Thick gravy covered the meat, and the onions were sweet. A man who had died beside a bank terminal should respect good food in another world. Alara watched me finish half the pie. "You still have 0 mana," she said. "Yes." "That spell cost 1,000. "Yes." "And you said you were taking a loan." I looked at her. She broke 1 potato with her fork. "I am not asking for the secret. I am asking whether the price will kill you. Not if I pay on time." "How much?" 1,300 units by tomorrow evening." Her fork stopped. "The Academy just took a core worth 800. I counted it." "You said that very calmly." "Panic has never paid a bill." She pushed the second honey cake toward me. "Then tomorrow I will help you hunt. Brenor may punish you. He can stand in line behind the ogre." That was a simple joke. I laughed anyway. Then my left little finger went cold. The honey cake slipped from it. I tried to move the finger. It did not respond. Black letters appeared across the skin like ink beneath glass. They did not form a window. They formed a single word. Collateral. Alara caught my hand. Her face lost all color. The calm voice returned. It informed me that ownership of my left little finger had been registered to the creditor. The transfer would spread to my entire hand when the payment term ended. I asked the only useful question. How much time remains? A woman answered for the first time. Her voice was soft, close, and awake. 19 hours, Calder. After that, I begin collecting the rest of you. The next morning, my finger was still not mine. It moved when the woman allowed it. When I tried to bend it alone, it remained straight. That made tying my boots surprisingly difficult. The creditor had found a small piece of my body and turned it into an argument. Alara waited outside with 2 travel cloaks and a list of academy quests. The Eastern Marsh pays 4 silver for each frog core, she said. The Old Forest pays 1 gold for every wolf core. We can clear the debt before evening. We could if those quests still existed. The board in the common hall had been stripped clean. A new notice covered it. Students under investigation for irregular magic could not accept core rewards without faculty approval. My name was the only one beneath the rule. Brenor stood beside the board with his face bandaged. A group of instructors and nearly 100 students watched us enter. Safety measure, he said. Until we identify your artifact, you may not enter another academy dungeon. You searched me after the raid. Then you hid it well. Your search also found a turnip. Will the turnip be questioned? The soldiers near the door laughed. Brenor's bandage twitched. You caused damage worth 300 gold. Your reward should have paid for it. The Guardian caused the damage. The Guardian is dead. That makes collecting difficult. More laughter followed. Brenor did not need to be foolish to be dangerous. He needed to protect his report. If I cleared another dungeon, the capital inspectors would ask why he had ranked me last. If I died from my unknown price, he could call the first victory an accident. He had 19 hours of patience. I had less. A brown-haired girl pushed through the crowd carrying a metal box. She wore the green coat of the research faculty. One lens of her glasses was round. The other had 6 smaller lenses attached to it. She looked at my black finger, not my face. Interesting, she said. Good morning to you too. I am Tessa. Your finger contains a binding pattern older than the academy. May I cut off a small piece? Of the pattern? Of the finger. No. Reasonable. She opened her metal box and produced a rolled contract. The North Quarry had reported crystal beasts in its lower tunnels. The Academy refused the request because the quarry was privately owned and the usual core tax could not be collected. The quarry offered 30 gold for reopening the tunnels and half the value of all recovered cores. Brenor reached for the paper. Tessa moved it away. Research work, she said. Not an Academy raid. Your notice does not cover it. He is an untested soldier. Tessa adjusted one of her 6 lenses. Yesterday, he tested an iron ogre until it became smoke. The common hall shook with laughter. Brenor pointed at Alara. If the first student joins this fraud, I will suspend her from the magic faculty. Alara removed the silver faculty pin from her collar. She placed it on the table between them. Then you will need a new first student before the capital inspection. The hall went silent. Her name vanished from the magic faculty list. It remained first on the general ranking. Brenor stared at the pin. He needed her score more than she needed his permission. 1 day, he said at last. You are suspended for 1 day. Alara picked up the pin. That sounded smaller when you said it twice. We left while the soldiers cheered. The North Quarry stood 2 hours beyond the city wall. A white scar ran down the mountain where workers had cut away the stone. 40 miners waited near the sealed entrance with hammers, lanterns, and the expressions of men whose wages had stopped. Their foreman showed us a cart full of broken crystal. Quartz mites, he said. Hundreds. They eat support runes. Yesterday, the 3rd tunnel collapsed. 2 workers are still trapped behind it. Alara looked at me. The contract said nothing about trapped people. Rescue first, I said. Cores after. The foreman offered another 20 gold for the workers. Keep it ready, I said. Pay them for surviving. The miners heard me. Their hard faces changed. We entered with 12 volunteers behind us. Alara lit the tunnel with a white orb. Tessa placed tiny brass needles in the walls and listened to the stone through wires. I carried a real spear this time. It was still a common weapon, but its edge did not bend when I looked at it. The first wave arrived after 300 steps. Quartz mites were the size of dogs. Clear shells covered their backs. Their legs clicked against the floor so quickly that the tunnel sounded full of rain. I could not borrow 1 unit while my balance remained above 120. The voice refused before I even asked. My left finger grew colder with every passing hour, so I used the faculty Brenor had chosen for me. Shields low, I said. Lanterns behind them. Ilara, heat the ceiling, not the beasts. She understood at once. Her flame spell warmed a vein of soft resin above the swarm. The resin melted and fell. 30 mites became stuck together in one shining mass. They rolled toward us like a glass barrel with too many legs. The miners drove iron wedges beneath it. I struck the exposed cores one by one. The first core held 9 units. The second held 11. The third held 10. Each vanished into my debt. My balance fell from 1,300 to 1,270. The black mark stopped at my finger instead of spreading. Every miner saw the cores turn gray in my hand. "He is eating them," one whispered. "Not with his mouth," another answered. "That would be worse." We pushed deeper. The second swarm came through cracks in both walls. Tessa's brass needles rang before the stone broke. Ilara froze the left crack. The miners covered the right. I stood in the center and called targets. We killed 42 mites in 6 minutes. Their cores paid 420 units. My debt fell to 850. The miners began announcing each value before handing me a core. 9, 10, 12, 8. It sounded like an auction run by very tired men. The foreman held up a core worth 13 units. "Lucky one," he said. "Give it to the youngest miner," I said. "The debt takes only mana. People need luck." The youngest miner put it in his pocket as if I had given him a kingdom. At the collapsed third tunnel, we heard 2 weak knocks from the other side. Tessa studied the broken supports. If Ilara uses force, the roof falls. Clearing it by hand takes 5 hours. I had 14 hours before collection. The mites had eaten 3 support runes, but left the 4th untouched. I traced the old shape in the dust. It redirected weight toward the strongest wall. The academy taught the pattern during the first year. I had scored perfectly on it before Brenor called books useless. We cut new grooves with spear points. Ilara supplied only enough mana to activate them. The weight shifted. The miners removed a narrow column of stone. The trapped workers crawled out while the entire tunnel groaned around us. 40 miners outside saw them return. The foreman embraced both men, then raised my arm before the workers. "The academy refused us," he shouted. The last ranked soldier came. The miners answered with my name. My public reputation did not move on the academy board yet. It moved somewhere more useful. By noon, every quarry worker knew who had opened the tunnel. Then the mountain shook. The mites had not destroyed the supports at random. They had been feeding a crystal centipede beneath the quarry. It tore through the floor behind us. The creature filled the tunnel from wall to wall. Its shell reflected Ilara's light in 100 sharp colors. Each of its legs was longer than my spear. A yellow core pulsed behind its jaws. Tessa's measuring lens cracked. "Rank A," she said. "At least 600 units in the core." The centipede struck. Ilara threw up an ice wall. The head passed through it and kept moving. We ran toward the open quarry with the beast behind us. Every miner on the mountain saw it emerge. They also saw a second group arriving from the academy. Brenor led 12 advanced mages in red coats. He had followed us with recording crystals and a sealed core wagon. "Clear the area," he shouted. "Academy faculty will handle the guardian." The centipede turned toward his formation. Brenor's mages launched 12 fire lances. The crystal shell split the light and threw the spells back. 3 red coats caught fire. The neat formation scattered like birds around a falling tree. Brenor dived behind the core wagon. The miners watched their official rescuers roll in the dirt. I had continued paying while we ran. 3 medium mites near the exit had given 120 units each. The rescued workers carried a pouch holding 380 more. I pressed the final core to my palm. My balance fell to 110. The black writing vanished from my finger. New credit unlocked. The voice announced that I had repaid more than 1,000 units in a single term. Debtor of Mana advanced to Archmage of Borrowed Power. My safe limit rose from 120 to 360. Power had increased. The centipede did not care. I asked for Lightning Chain, a spell costing 300 units. The first quote added 150 units of interest. That was wrong. Fire Spark had cost only 1/10 in interest. The danger was higher now, but I was no closer to death than I had been before Flame Tempest. The centipede smashed the core wagon. Brenor crawled out through a broken wheel. The miners shouted. My heart accelerated. The interest quote climbed to 170. I understood. The system did not measure only the monster. It measured me. Fear made me look less likely to repay. A frightened debtor received worse terms. I lowered my spear. I inhaled for 4 steps. I held the breath for 4. I released it for 4. I listened to the miners' retreat. I smelled hot stone and pine from the mountain. I looked at Alara. She was bleeding from one eyebrow, but she smiled. Your numbers improved? She asked. They are negotiating. Tell them the monster has poor manners. My heart slowed. The quoted interest fell from 170 to 90, then to 60, then to 30. Calm had reduced the price by 140 units. That was worth more than most swords. I accepted 300 units of principal and 30 units of interest. My balance became 440, above my new limit. Credit locked again. I needed 1 spell. Alara fired a narrow beam at the creature's eyes. It turned its head. The yellow core behind its jaws faced me for 1 breath. Lightning chain. Blue light crossed every crack the Academy's reflected spells had made. It jumped from one crystal plate to the next. The centipede became a long cage of lightning. Its 100 legs stopped together. The creature fell across Brenor's red formation and trapped his robe beneath its head. Silence covered the quarry. Then the miners cheered so loudly that loose stones rolled down the mountain. The Academy recording crystals floated above Brenor. They had captured his failed attack, his dive behind the wagon, and my single spell. Tessa cut the yellow core free with a small saw. Her cracked lens valued it at 600 units. She used a research cutter to divide the core without wasting its power. 440 units cleared my debt. The remaining piece held 160. The quarry bought it for 20 gold. The contract paid 30 more. My total wealth rose from 30 gold to 80. The Academy board updated after the recording reached the city. My place rose from 120 to 80. The system raised my safe limit to 1,000 because I had fully cleared both an emergency overdraw and a second combat loan in 1 day. Strength. Money, status, all 3 had moved again. Brenor finally pulled his robe from beneath the dead centipede. That core belongs to the Academy, he said. 40 miners turned toward him. Tessa unrolled the contract. Private quarry, private research mission. Half the core belongs to the team. He is an Academy student. The foreman stepped forward. The Academy rejected our request in writing. One rescued worker lifted that rejection letter. Another lifted Brenor's new order claiming the core. The recording crystals focused on both papers. Brenor's face changed. He could accuse 3 students. He could not accuse an entire quarry while the capital watched. Alara spoke clearly. Yesterday you called the soldiers replaceable. Today you let your own mages burn while you hid behind their wagon. Are you still qualified to command raids? The advanced mages heard her. One removed his red faculty badge. Then another did the same. By the time we returned to the city, a petition with 63 names covered the main board. Brenor was suspended from raid command until the capital inspection ended. He stood beneath the notice while common soldiers read it aloud. Yesterday, he had erased my scholarship before 400 witnesses. Today, more than 1,000 students watched his command badge disappear. That evening, Tessa brought us to the research kitchen because it contained the largest pot in her building. She claimed the pot was used for alchemy. The burn marks suggested the alchemy had once tried to escape. Alara browned cubes of beef in butter until the edges became dark and crisp. I cut carrots, onions, and red potatoes. Tessa added herbs with the precision of a scientist and then dropped the entire bundle into the pot by mistake. We rescued half. The stew cooked slowly in thick brown broth. Fresh bread came from the shop below my room. Its crust cracked when I tore it. We spread it with salted butter and used it to collect every drop from our bowls. The room was warm. Rain tapped the windows. My left finger moved when I asked it to. Alara held my hand beneath the lamp and checked the skin. No black mark. The account is clear. And tomorrow? Tomorrow I borrow only if the return is larger than the price. Tessa looked up from the yellow core fragment she had kept for study. That answer explains why you are dangerous. The fragment pulsed. Every lamp in the kitchen went out. A black line moved through the core and formed the shape of a chain. Stone groaned far beneath the Academy. The woman's voice came from the fragment this time. Alara and Tessa heard it too. You have returned 1,641 units to me, Calder. Tessa dropped her spoon. Ilara gripped her staff. The voice laughed softly. There was no romance in it. There was hunger and the patience of something buried for a very long time. Thank you, she said. One of my locks is now open. On the third morning, the Academy confiscated our breakfast. Ilara had fried flatbread in a black pan until both sides were crisp. I had added eggs, soft white cheese, and a spoon of apple jam. Tessa had placed the yellow core fragment beside the salt because she claimed morning light improved observation. 3 guards entered before I took the first bite. Their leader sealed the food, the fragment, and my purse inside evidence boxes. He left us the pan. Dean Auric requests your presence, he said. Tessa watched my breakfast disappear. Requests? Immediately. That is a strange shape for a request. We followed them across the central court. Students filled every balcony. News of the voice in Tessa's kitchen had spread before sunrise. Some said I had trapped a demon in a core. Others said I had married one. Ilara heard that rumor and looked at my black finger. If you marry your creditor, do you still pay interest? She asked. Probably more. She smiled. Tessa did not. She was mourning the eggs. Dean Auric waited on the public judgment platform. He was a broad man in dark blue robes. Gray hair framed a face that looked tired rather than cruel. Behind him stood the Academy Council, the Capitol Inspectors, and Brenor without his command badge. Auric held the yellow core fragment with iron tongs. Calder, he said, this object carried an unidentified voice through Academy wards. You will explain your power. The ranking board showed my name at place 80. Beneath it, a new charge appeared. Illegal mana traffic. I borrow mana, I said. The court became silent. Auric leaned forward. From whom? The creditor did not introduce herself. That was almost true. The voice had spoken like someone who already knew me, but she had not given a name. What security did you offer? I raised my left hand. The students nearest the platform stepped back. Auric's expression hardened. Body contracts were outlawed 200 years ago. I did not receive the Academy law book before the ogre attacked. A Capitol Inspector covered a laugh with a cough. Auric did not smile. Unknown power has already breached one protected seal. I cannot allow it to move freely. Sign a faculty-binding contract. The Academy will manage your loans, collect your cores, and approve every spell. In return, I will restore your scholarship and erase the charge. The contract appeared on a stone desk. It gave the magic faculty 70% of every future core I earned. It also gave Auric the right to stop my body for 1 minute if I disobeyed an order. It was not protection. It was a collar with good handwriting. No, I said. The word crossed the silent court. Brenor smiled for the first time that morning. Auric rested both hands on the desk. You are refusing restoration to the best faculty in the kingdom. Yesterday, that faculty called me a burden. Today, it wants 70%. My value improved faster than its manners. The balconies erupted. Common soldiers struck their spear shafts against the floor. Researchers leaned over the rails. Even several mages applauded before noticing Brenor watching them. Auric raised one hand. The noise stopped. Then prove your power is yours to control. The public assessment tournament begins at noon. Defeat the senior champion without external artifacts. If you win, the charge is removed. If you lose, you accept the contract. What does the winner receive? His eyes narrowed. This is a legal hearing. Then the Academy risks nothing. The Capitol Inspectors began whispering. Auric could not demand a public wager while refusing one himself. He looked at the packed balconies and understood the same thing. 120 gold, he said. And a rank A core from the tournament reserve. Agreed. The ranking board announced the match to the entire Academy. My opponent had trained for 7 years. He ranked 9th. His natural reserve was 1,200 units. Mine remained 0. The betting board gave him 97 chances in 100. By the time guards released us, the confiscated breakfast was cold. We carried it to the empty soldier yard. Ilara warmed the flatbread over a small flame. The edges became crisp again. The cheese melted over the eggs, and the apple jam turned warm and bright. Tessa recovered the salt from the evidence box and covered her food with it. The voice said, "One lock opened after your repayments," she said. That means the paid mana went somewhere. To the creditor. Yes, but mana still follows a path. Your fire spark core emptied in the soldier yard. The quarry cores emptied on the mountain. The voice came from a fragment inside the academy. Different places, same destination. She unfolded a map beneath the pan. Every line met under the central arena. Alara tore a piece of flatbread and dipped it into the soft egg. Auric knew which seal opened. He asked about it before we named it, I said. Tessa nodded. He also used iron tongs. Iron blocks divine resonance. The word divine rested between us. Outside, students shouted new bets. My chance rose from 3 in 100 to 4. Someone had confidence. It might have been the chicken. I asked the system whether a spell could trace paid mana. It offered current mirror for 200 units. The spell would make every active flow visible for 1 minute. Interest would be 20 if I remained calm. I did not borrow yet. I can show the path, I said. But once Auric sees what we are doing, the match will stop being fair. Alara finished her egg. Was it fair before? No. Then nothing valuable changes. At noon, more than 3,000 people filled the central arena. Recording crystals carried the match to every classroom and dining hall. The public ranking floated above the sand. My place was 80. The senior champion stood at place 9. He entered in polished steel armor and carried a blue tower shield. He did not laugh at my gray soldier coat. He bowed. I did not choose Auric's wager, he said quietly, but I will not lose on purpose. Good. Brenor told me you cheat. Brenor also hid behind a wagon. The champion's mouth moved. He was trying not to smile. Auric stood in the judge's tower. Brenor operated the arena formation beside him. Alara and Tessa watched from the front row with the capital inspectors. The bell rang. The champion released 500 units at once. Blue armor formed over his steel. A second shield of compressed water covered the first. He advanced like a refrigerator with anger problems. I moved sideways. His shield hit the place where I had stood and opened a crater. Sand covered my coat. The crowd roared. I used no magic. He attacked again. I watched his feet. Heavy armor forced the right heel to turn before each charge. I avoided the second strike by half a step. His shield clipped my sleeve and spun me across the sand. The betting board reduced my chance to 1 in 100. Brenor's voice carried from the tower. 0 mana produces 0 results. The mage stands laughed. Alara remained seated. She knew I was counting. The third charge came faster. I rolled beneath the shield and touched the arena floor. I accepted current mirror. 200 units of principal entered the spell. 20 units of interest entered my debt. The sand became transparent to my sight. Rivers of mana filled the academy. Most were blue or gold. They ran from students towards spells, walls, and training tools. One river was black. It began in my chest, passed through the arena floor, and plunged downward. Current mirror did not show only me. It made the flow visible to everyone within the arena. 3,000 people saw the black river beneath my feet. They also saw hundreds of thin black streams descending from storage vaults, dormitories, and healing halls. Every emptied core had sent a hidden share below the academy. The crowd stopped laughing. Tessa stood and pointed at the judge's tower. A thick stream ran from Auric's control ring into the same darkness. "He is feeding it," she shouted. Auric struck the tower rail. "End the spell." Brenor activated the arena drain. The formation should have removed all loose mana from the sand. It pulled at the champion's armor and stripped half of his water shield away. It found nothing inside me. My reserve was 0. Borrowed mana existed only while the spell moved through me. The drain opened its mouth and bit empty air. The audience saw that too. The champion looked from the Black River to Auric. Was the drain part of the assessment? Auric did not answer. The champion dropped his damaged outer shield. "Then I will finish without it." He charged a 4th time. I respected him for that. I asked for Glass Lance. Its base price was 600 units. Calm interest was 60. My existing balance was 220. The total would become 880, still below my limit of 1,000. I accepted. A clear spear formed around my common weapon. I did not aim at his body. I aimed at the water beneath his left boot. The lance pierced the sand and froze the water in place. His foot stopped. His body did not. The rank 9th champion turned through the air and landed on his back. His tower shield slid away. I placed the point of my spear against his throat. The bell did not ring. Brenor stood frozen beside the controls. "The match is over," Alara called. The soldier stands repeated her words. Then the researchers. Then the mage stands. 3,000 voices shook the arena. "The match is over!" The capital inspector reached past Brenor and struck the bell. My opponent looked at the spear, then at me. He raised both hands. "I yield." The ranking board flashed. My name rose from place 80 to place 21. The senior champion fell only one place because he had fought honestly. The betting board paid 17 times the stake to the few people who had chosen me. Somewhere in the crowd, one person screamed with unusual happiness. The rank A prize core descended inside a glass case. Brenor reached for it. The champion stood between him and the case. The winner's prize. Alara climbed over the arena rail. Tessa followed more carefully and almost became stuck in her coat. Before all 3,000 witnesses, the Capitol Inspector handed me 120 gold and the core. My wealth rose from 80 gold to 200. Tessa cut a section worth 880 units. I repaid the full balance. The black river below me grew bright enough to cast shadows across the sand. The remaining core stayed intact. It belonged to me. The system counted all my completed repayments. They reached 2,521 units. Passing the second repayment tier raised my safe limit from 1,000 to 2,500. The arena crystals confirmed the change in my spell capacity while still confirming a natural reserve of 0. Power, money, and rank had climbed in front of the entire academy. Auric came down from the tower. He no longer looked tired. He looked afraid. "You do not understand what is beneath us," he said. "Then explain it publicly. Some truths cause panic." Tessa raised the yellow fragment. Hidden drains cause questions. Auric looked at the Capitol Inspectors. The Academy sits above an ancient mana source. Its output maintains the city barrier and heats the lower district in winter. If that source becomes unstable, 50,000 people lose protection. That was a real motive. It did not explain the secret contracts. "Why does the source own part of my finger?" I asked. The arena became quiet again. Auric's silence answered. Tessa connected her brass needles to the recording crystal. Measurements from the previous 6 years appeared on the ranking board. 40% of every academy core had vanished below. Official reports called it harmless loss. The Capitol Inspectors compared Auric's signature across every report. Brenor stepped away from him. Auric saw it and laughed once without humor. "Do not pretend you are clean, Brenor. You removed weak students to increase the harvest from strong ones." The crowd turned toward Brenor. He had spent 3 days protecting his report. Auric destroyed it in one sentence. The Academy Council suspended Auric from the central seat until a full investigation could be held. His control ring was removed before the students. Brenor lost authority to evaluate admissions. The scholarship charter was restored on the same board where he had erased mine. The first scholarship issued under the restored rule carried my name. Brenor stood below it without a badge. I did not need to insult him. 400 applicants from the first morning walked past and read the notice aloud. Public numbers had created my fall. Public numbers now completed his. That evening, Alara, Tessa, and I used Auric's confiscated map to enter the lower foundation. The stairs descended farther than the mountain quarry. Warm air rose from below. Blue light ran through cracks in the walls, but every 100 steps the stone became older and darker. At the bottom, we found a door made from one piece of black iron. My left finger opened it. The chamber beyond was larger than the central arena. Chains crossed it from floor to ceiling. Each link carried enough mana to power a district. A woman sat at their center. Her hair floated in blue light. Iron bands held both wrists, both ankles, and her throat. One lock hung open beside her right hand. She looked nothing like a bride from the morning rumor. She looked like a prisoner who had counted every stone in her cell. Tessa's lenses all cracked at once. Alara raised her staff. The woman ignored both of them and looked at me. "My name is Luma," she said. "I am the goddess from whom this kingdom takes its mana." I stopped beyond the reach of her free hand. "Are you my creditor?" "Yes." "Did you choose the body collateral?" "Your class offered what you valued most." I accepted. Honest danger again. "Where do my payments go?" Luma lifted her free hand. Blue power moved beneath her skin. "Into me. The Academy has stolen my mana for 300 years. Your system recognizes me as the owner. Every unit you return restores what the seals took. Every completed debt opens part of my prison." Alara moved beside me. "What happens when all the locks open?" Luma looked at the chains above us. "I leave." "What happens to the city barrier?" Tessa asked. "It loses the woman being burned to power it." The answer was simple. The result was not. A bell rang far above us. Luma's expression changed. Light passed through the remaining chains. One by one, they carried a message toward the capital. Auric had told the truth about one thing. The seal was monitored. Luma closed her free hand around a broken link. The church felt my first lock open, she said. Their collector has already crossed the city gate. The black iron door slammed behind us. Then a man's voice filled every chamber of the academy. By order of the church, Calder is condemned as a thief of divine property. His execution will take place tomorrow. By sunrise, the church had built my execution platform in the central court. It stood where Brenor had canceled my scholarship 3 days earlier. White banners covered the balconies. Church guards closed every gate. A metal figure waited beside the block with its hands folded over a silver axe. The measuring crystals called it a rank S collection construct. Thousands of students filled the court. The capital inspectors stood with the academy council. Auric watched without his control ring. Brenor stood behind him without any badge at all. The ladder had become crowded near the bottom. Malvek waited at the top. He wore white robes edged with gold and carried no weapon. He was younger than Auric and calmer than Brenor. A thin silver chain ran from his wrist to the construct's chest. He looked at me as I entered with Alara and Tessa. "Calder," he said, "kneel, surrender your class, and the church will preserve your life." That is different from the execution notice. The notice encouraged punctuality. He understood simple jokes. That made him more dangerous. I stopped 10 steps from the platform. "How do I surrender a class?" "We remove the part of your soul that carries it." "Does the soul grow back?" "No." "Then I prefer the original offer. It sounds faster." The common soldiers laughed. Church guards struck their spear shafts against the stones to silence them. Malvek lifted one finger. The guards stopped. "I do not hate you," he said. 300 years ago, Luma flooded half the capital when mortals tried to control her. The first collectors lost 40,000 people before they formed the seal. Her prison is cruel. Her freedom may be worse. Auric looked down. He had known that history. Malvek continued. "The church regulates divine mana because unmeasured power destroys cities. You borrowed without permission, restored a hostile goddess, and opened one lock. If one life closes it again, I will take that life." The court was silent. His motive was stronger than Brenor's promotion or Auric's city barrier. He believed the world rested on Luma's chains. He also called her mana divine property, while she called it stolen. "Let Luma speak before the court," I said. "Prisoners do not judge their sentence." "Then show the record of her trial." Malvek's eyes cooled. "Gods are not protected by human law." "But the church owns their property?" The question moved through the balconies in whispers. Tessa raised a recording crystal. "The archive contains no trial record, no consent contract, and no payment to Luma. It contains only church collection reports." Malvek pointed toward her. The construct's head turned. Alara stepped in front of Tessa. "Threatening a researcher will not improve the archive," she said. Malvek studied her. "Alara, your reserve is 800. Your future could place you among the royal mages. Move away from him." 4 days ago, everyone told him to move away from me. She remained beside me. That was when I understood the final name on my hidden path. The system had said, "Heavenly creditor required a voluntary second borrower." I had assumed I needed mana of my own to lend. I had none. But a bank did not lend its own gold. It moved another person's gold and accepted the risk between them. I asked the voice whether borrowed mana could pass through me to Alara. The answer came with terms. I could request 500 units from Luma and deliver them directly to a willing ally. Luma would charge me 50 units of interest. Alara would owe the same 550 to me. If she failed, I remained responsible to Luma. My heart would become security because it was the organ sustaining the second connection. One gift, one broken rule, a deeper consequence. Alara saw my expression. "You found something. I can lend you 500 units. Her eyes widened. "You have 0. That has not stopped me before." "The price?" "If you do not repay 550 by sunset, my heart becomes collateral." Tessa looked between us. "I recommend a less romantic first agreement." "It is not romantic," I said. "His heart is in the contract," Alara said. "It is a little romantic." The crowd could not hear our quiet words, but Malvek saw us speaking. "Time is finished," he said. The construct unfolded. It rose twice as tall as a man. Silver plates covered a body full of turning seals. Its axe contained no blade. It contained a hole that pulled mana from everything nearby. The flowers beside the platform dried. Light faded from the academy wards. Alara's reserve fell from 800 to 700 without her casting a spell. The system called the weapon a collector. Malvek extended his hand. "Kneel." I looked at Alara. "Do you accept 500 units and a debt of 550? She held out her hand. "I accept." The contract formed between our palms as a thin line of blue fire. I borrowed 500 from Luma. I never held it. The mana passed through my empty reserve and entered Alara. Every measuring crystal in the court screamed. Her reserve rose from 700 to 1,200. Mine remained 0. The system recognized the voluntary second borrower. My class advanced from Archmage of Borrowed Power to Heavenly Creditor. 3,000 witnesses watched the strongest student break her natural limit with power from the weakest. Malvek's calm expression cracked. "Seize them." The construct swung its axe. Alara pushed Tessa aside and raised a wall of white fire. The collector cut through it, but the flames slowed the blade. I pulled Alara beneath the swing. The axe struck the judgment platform and erased every spell carved into the stone. Malvek moved back. His guards closed around him. The construct attacked again. I asked for Anchor Field. It cost 1,000 units and 100 interest under my calm terms. Combined with Alara's loan, my total obligation became 1,650. It remained below my limit of 2,500. I accepted. Invisible weight filled the court. The construct's right foot locked to the ground. Its body continued forward. Metal bent at the knee. Students in the front rows shouted. The ranking board identified a rank A control spell produced from a 0 reserve. The collector raised its axe with both hands and tore free. Alara's borrowed mana began leaking toward the hole in the blade. The construct was built to take power back from unauthorized users. It pulled 100 units from her in a breath. The blue line between our hands tightened around my chest. I felt each missing unit as pressure on my heart. "It is collecting the loan," Tessa shouted. "Not just the spell." Malvek heard her. "All divine mana returns to the church." That sentence was the key. The construct recognized one legal route. Luma to church to mage. My route was Luma to me to Alara. It considered both of us thieves because it did not recognize voluntary transfer. I changed the direction of the anchor field. Instead of holding the construct down, I fixed the silver axe in place. The machine pulled backward. The axe remained above Alara. Its open collector continued drawing her borrowed mana. I stepped between them and touched the hole. It found my reserve. 0. The collector pulled harder. Nothing entered. Its seals accelerated. The sound became a rising metallic scream. A machine built to empty a cup had found a cup without a bottom. Cracks appeared across the axe. Tessa raised her recording crystal toward the control chain. "Now, Alara, feed it through Calder." Alara understood before I did. She sent 100 borrowed units back along our link. They passed through me and reached the collector from behind its legal filter. The machine recorded the payment as authorized. Then Alara pulled the same mana back through the voluntary contract. For one moment, the collector tried to call the same 100 units paid, stolen, returned, and missing. Its central seal split. The sound was like a metal cabinet falling down a long staircase. Malvek pulled his silver chain. "Stop!" The construct stopped listening. Its chest opened. Hundreds of thin contract strips burst into the air. Each carried the name of a mage whose reserve the church had taxed. Students caught them. Instructors read them. The Capitol inspectors began collecting evidence before the paper reached the ground. Malvek's guards tried to burn the strips. Common soldiers covered them with shields. The court became a storm of white paper and shouting witnesses. The construct tore its axe free and turned toward Alara. She had 1,100 units left. 500 belonged to the loan. 600 belonged to her. "Can you use both together?" I asked. "I am about to find out." She raised her staff. Her natural mana was silver. The borrowed mana was blue. They twisted around each other and formed a spear of light longer than the judgment platform. The measuring crystals identified Star Lance. Rank S cost 1,000 units. Alara had never cast above rank A. Malvek shouted for the crowd to run. No one moved. They had watched him build the execution platform. They intended to watch it fall. Alara released the lance. It passed through the collector's chest without touching the paper contracts around it. The silver plates lifted from the frame, one after another. The machine flew backward, struck the execution platform, and broke it in half. The upper half collapsed around Malvek. When the dust cleared, he stood inside a ring of bent metal with only his head and shoulders visible. His white robes had turned gray. One gold banner rested across his hair. For 2 breaths, the entire academy stared. Then the common soldiers laughed. The researchers joined them. The mages followed. Even Auric covered his mouth. Malvek had arrived above every academy law. He ended the morning trapped inside his own collection machine like a coin in a broken box. Ilara lowered her staff. The last 100 units of her natural reserve faded. The 500 borrowed units were gone as well. The Star Lance had spent them, but spending was not repayment. Her debt to me remained 550. My debt to Luma remained the same. She took 1 step and fell. I caught her before she reached the stone. The crowd stopped laughing. Her shoulder had been cut by the collector's axe. The wound was shallow, but the weapon had blocked natural recovery. Her reserve would not regenerate before sunset. Tessa reached us with a healing kit. Keep the link stable. How? Do not let your heart stop. Useful advice. Behind us, the damaged construct released its core. It held 1,300 units. The Academy Council awarded it to us before Malvek escaped the metal ring. Too many witnesses had seen the victory for him to claim it. I sent all 1,300 units into repayment. My personal anchor field debt of 1,100 cleared first. 200 reduced Ilara's guaranteed balance. 350 remained. My completed repayments passed 3,800 units. Together with the voluntary loan, that raised the safe limit of Heavenly Creditor from 2,500 to 5,000. The ranking board placed me 3rd in the academy. Ilara remained 1st. The honest senior champion held 10th. The council also awarded us 100 gold for stopping a hostile construct. My money rose from 200 to 300. More importantly, the academy granted our team 10% of recovered dungeon cores, expected to provide 300 mana units and 30 gold each week. My strength, resources, and public status rose again. Malvek climbed from the broken platform. He removed the banner from his head with slow care. A damaged field construct proves nothing, he said. Tessa held up a bundle of church contracts. It proves your machine carries excellent records. The students cheered. Malvek looked around the court. He had legal authority, armed guards, and centuries of tradition. None helped while 3,000 witnesses laughed at his broken machine. He pointed at me. At noon tomorrow, the capital celebrates the Festival of First Light. Every ranking crystal in the kingdom will be connected. I will bring the original Dominion bell. When it rings, all unauthorized divine debt becomes due at once. Luma's voice whispered through my cold finger. He has that right under my oldest chains. Malvek heard nothing. He continued, Pay your full balance before noon, Calder. Otherwise, the bell will collect your heart in front of the entire kingdom. He left through a path his guards opened in the crowd. Students did not bow. They held up the stolen contracts as he passed. That evening, Ilara rested in my room above the bakery. Tessa treated her shoulder while I cooked. I rubbed a chicken with garlic, salt, lemon, and butter. The skin became golden in the oven. Rice cooked beneath it and caught every drop of juice. I added roasted carrots and onions around the edges until they became sweet. The bakery filled the room with the smell of fresh rolls. We ate at the small table beside the window. Ilara used her uninjured arm. Tessa ate quickly and returned to measuring the black line between our hands. Your reserve has recovered by 40 units, I told Ilara. Only 310 to go. We have until noon. The normal term ends at sunset, Tessa said. The light outside touched the rooftops. My chest tightened. One beat of my heart arrived late, then another. The system marked my heart as security for the remaining 350 units. Ilara felt the link change. She pushed back her chair. Take my recovered mana now. You need it to heal. You need a heart. Both are useful. She placed her palm over mine. 40 units moved through the link and reduced the balance to 310. My heartbeat steadied. For a moment, the room was quiet and warm. Butter shone on the rice. Rain began beyond the glass. Ilara's hand remained on mine after the payment ended. Then every bell in the city rang once. The windows shook. My heart stopped. Ilara caught me as I fell from the chair. Tessa's instruments flashed black. Far above the capital, a second sun appeared for one breath and vanished. My heart struck again after 3 silent seconds. Luma's voice entered the room. That was only a test. Outside, a black carriage rolled through the academy gate. It carried a bell larger than a house. Across its surface, silver words burned bright enough for the whole city to read. Full collection at noon. On the fifth morning, every shop in the capital refused to sell me a core. The church sealed the markets and academy vault before dawn. It threatened to ban anyone who helped me from every dungeon. I had 300 gold and could not buy 1 unit of mana. The black carriage waited in the arena. The Dominion Bell filled it from end to end, and its surface carried thousands of names. Mine burned brighter than the rest. Tessa had worked through the night. Contract strips covered her laboratory floor. She joined matching seals, compared dates, and built a history from the church's own records. Alara slept in a chair beside her. The collector wound blocked most of her recovery, but 60 new units had gathered in her reserve. She still owed 310. My heart missed one beat every few minutes. Luma explained that the bell was older than her prison. It could collect an unpaid divine gift, and her oldest chain named the church as collection agent. She could not cancel that authority while the chain remained closed. Tessa pushed a row of contracts toward me. The bell contains a bond of 4,000 mana units. The church deposited it when the first chain was formed. If the bell violates its own contract, the bond returns to Luma, and the oldest chain opens. What counts as a violation? Alara asked without opening her eyes. Collecting a debt that was already paid. She opened them. We looked at the blue line between her hand and mine. The solution was simple. Finding 310 units before noon was not. Alara sat up. My reserve will recover enough. Tessa shook her head. At the current rate, you reach 120 by noon. Then remove the wound seal. If I cut it incorrectly, you lose the arm. Calder loses his heart if you do nothing. Please keep the important parts attached, I said. We have a long day. Someone knocked on the laboratory door. The quarry foreman waited outside with the 2 rescued miners. Behind them stood common soldiers, researchers, bakers, stable workers, and students from every faculty. The line crossed the courtyard. Each person held a small core. The foreman placed 1 cloudy stone on the table. 13 units. The lucky one. The youngest miner had returned it. We work in a quarry, the foreman said. The church's threat needs better aim. The first soldier added 9 units. A researcher added 12. The baker placed 2 heat crystals worth 5 each beside the bread. Alara watched the table fill. I could not use other people's property without consent. Each person spoke the same sentence. I give this freely. The system accepted the voluntary payments. 10 units became 22, then 47, then 90. Students who had laughed on the first morning now gave their training cores. The senior champion brought 1 worth 80 and bowed. Brenor appeared near the end. Conversation stopped. He held the confiscation order for the Iron Ogre core, still locked in the sealed vault. I cannot recover what I took, he said. I can withdraw the academy claim. When the vault opens, the core belongs to you. He signed the withdrawal in front of everyone. I removed weak students because the capital rewarded high averages, he said. Then I called the result merit. I was wrong. The crowd did not forgive him. Neither did I. Truth was only a first payment. Stand with the soldiers at noon, I said. Call none of them replaceable. He nodded and joined the end of their line. The cores reached 250 units. We still lacked 60. Auric arrived with his confiscated control ring. Its stone held exactly 60 units. This powered the hidden drain, he said. The council may suspend me twice. He placed it beside the other cores. I ordered repayment. 310 units flowed through my account and cleared Alara's balance. The blue line between us turned gold, then vanished. My heart beat once, hard and complete. The collateral mark disappeared from my chest. Every person in the laboratory saw the account close before the bell rang. Tessa recorded the exact time. The Dominion bell still carried my burning name. If Malvek tried to collect me now, his own bond would be forfeit. Alara linked her fingers with mine without magic. The connection felt too quiet when it ended. That solves the silence, she said. Tessa looked away and began arranging contract strips with unusual speed. We ate breakfast in the courtyard with the people who had brought the cores. The baker carried out hot honey rolls with cinnamon inside. Soldiers fried bacon. Alara cut oranges. Tessa made tea strong enough to remove paint. For half an hour, the academy did not feel like a prison above a goddess. It felt like a home that had finally noticed its foundation was alive. At the end of breakfast, I asked Luma for the price of current reversal. The spell could reverse one divine flow. It required 4,000 units plus 800 risk interest. That fit below my limit of 5,000. I had to accept before the first toll locked all new credit. Success would return the bell's bond to Luma and repay my principal, leaving 800 interest. If it failed, the church would own my class, and Luma would own most of my body. Two creditors were fighting over the same empty container. "Do you agree to the loan?" Luma asked. "Not yet. I would accept when Malvek could no longer stop the bell." Before noon, the festival of First Light filled the capital. Gold ribbons crossed the streets. Families gathered around public crystals, all connected to the Dominion Bell. He wanted the entire world to see my execution. That gave me the witnesses I needed. More than 10,000 people filled the arena. Another million watched across the kingdom. Alara stood first. I stood third. My natural reserve remained 0. Malvek climbed the platform in fresh robes, a silver chain visible around his wrist. Priests raised the bell's black hammer. The Academy Council sat on one side. The Capitol inspectors sat on the other. Brenor stood with the common soldiers. Oryx stood without a ring. Tessa controlled the arena recording crystals. Malvek raised both hands. "People of the kingdom, divine mana has protected your homes for 3 centuries. One student has stolen it, broken its seals, and placed 50,000 lives at risk. Today, the Dominion Bell will close his unlawful path." The crystals showed my 0 reserve beside 3 impossible spells. I walked to the foot of the bell. "My balance is 0, I said. Tessa displayed the repayment record. Every core from breakfast appeared with its value and owner's consent. The final transfer time stood 11 minutes before noon. The arena murmured. Malvek did not look at the record. "Unauthorized use remains collectible after repayment." The bell contract says unpaid gift. His eyes moved toward Tessa. She held up the first strip from the broken construct. "Your own machine supplied the wording." The Capitol inspectors read their copies. One rose. "Collector Malvek, delay the toll until the claim is reviewed." Malvek looked at the sky. Noon arrived. "A city cannot wait for lawyers while a goddess escapes," he said. He pulled the silver chain. The black hammer fell. I accepted the loan. 4,000 units entered current reversal. 800 units entered my balance as interest. The hammer struck. The first toll had weight. Everyone bent beneath it. Windows broke, and ranking crystals turned black across the kingdom. My left foot stopped belonging to me. Then my left leg. Unable to find unpaid principal, the bell collected the path through which divine mana had moved. Black marks raced toward my chest. Alara grabbed my arm. Her recovered reserve drained into the bell. Students cried out as their mana followed. The bell treated every academy spell linked to Luma as part of my account. Malvek stared at the crowd, losing strength. He had expected one execution. His old tool had found an entire kingdom of debtors. "Stop the bell!" an inspector shouted. Malvek pulled the silver chain back. It did not move. The bell followed a contract older than the church. Malvek had never controlled it. I raised my right hand. The left side of my body had become black stone. Current reversal waited inside the toll. 4,000 borrowed units pushed against the flow of 1,000,000 victims. I did not try to overpower them. I changed one direction. "Return to creditor," I said. The spell activated. The sound of the bell folded inward. Mana stopped moving toward the black metal. For one breath, every current stood still. Then the 4,000-unit bond tore free from the bell's oldest seal and rushed downward. It passed through the arena, through the Academy Foundation, and into Luma's prison. The first chain broke. Current reversal spread through the opening. Mana taken from students returned to them. Ilara's silver reserve filled. Academy wards lit one by one. Across the kingdom, black ranking crystals became blue. The public saw all of it. Tessa sent the view from current mirror into the broadcast. A black river ran from the church vaults toward the bell. Smaller rivers returned to towns, healers, and mages. For 300 years, the institution that claimed to regulate divine power had stored more than it returned. The arena changed from fear to anger. Malvek reached for the bell with both hands. "Close the flow," the bell answered by opening its archive. Images appeared across every crystal. They showed early collectors surrounding Luma, driving the Dominion chain into her chest and releasing the explosion when she resisted. The flood had happened. The church had started it. Malvek watched his history break in front of 1 million people. "Those records may be false," he said. Tessa placed one church contract against the crystal. Its seal matched the image. "Then your authority is also false," she said. "They use the same seal." The crowd answered with one sound. Malvek's public certainty collapsed before his power did. He removed the silver chain from his wrist and wrapped it around his hand. Stored mana poured from the bell into him. White fire covered his robes. The measuring crystals rose past rank S and stopped reading. "If the seal fails," he said, "the barrier fails. I will not gamble 50,000 lives on one prisoner's memory." He formed a spear of sunlight and aimed it at the foundation beneath me. Destroying the foundation would bury Luma and everyone in the lower district with her. Ilara stepped beside me. Her restored mana formed a silver shield. Soldiers raised shields behind her. Mages added barriers. Brenor stood in the first line without a red robe. Malvek released the spear. The combined shield held for one breath, then cracked. I could not take a second loan. My balance stood at 4,800. The bell had locked all credit. Current reversal was still active for 3 more breaths. I turned its final current. The spear of sunlight changed direction half a step before it reached Ilara. It curved around us and struck the Dominion bell. Black metal split from top to bottom. The sound was smaller than the first toll. The reaction was larger. Every church contract inside the bell flew toward Malvek. Thousands of silver strips wrapped around his arms, legs, and chest. The mana he had drawn vanished. His rank fell from beyond S to ordinary human in front of the whole kingdom. The broken bell tipped from its carriage. Malvek tried to move. The contracts held him in place. Ilara pulled him aside one instant before the bell crushed the platform. He landed safely in the sand, still wrapped from shoulders to ankles. I looked down at him. "Why save me?" he asked. "A dead witness cannot correct the history book." The arena heard me through every crystal. Malvek had planned my public execution. He ended bound by his own records, alive to hear 1 million witnesses reject his claim. The inspectors removed his church seal. The council canceled my execution, and white banners came down. The ranking board moved my name from 3rd to 1st. Then it removed me from the student list entirely. New words appeared beside my name. Independent Archmage, Natural Reserve 0. Safe credit limit 10,000 units. The 4,000-unit bond returned to Luma had counted as repayment of my principal. My completed repayments passed 7,500 units and opened the next limit tier. 800 units of interest remained due. I had not become invincible. I had become approved for a larger mistake. The broken bell released its treasury seal. By old festival law, a false public claimant forfeited the execution bond to the accused. The church bond contained 1,000 gold. My wealth rose from 300 gold to 1,300. The council made our 10% core share permanent. The soldier yard added my name above its gate. I assigned my restored scholarship to its equipment shed. The chicken received a better roof. Strength, resources, and status had all climbed for the 5th day. Then the ground opened. The central arena split along the Black River. Students moved back, but no fire or monster came from below. Blue light rose through the crack. Luma walked out of the foundation. The iron bands on her wrists broke as she climbed. Chains fell from her ankles. The final ring around her throat opened when she stepped into sunlight. Every mage in the arena lost the feeling in their reserve for one breath. Luma looked toward the city barrier. It flickered. Malvek closed his eyes as if expecting the lower district to burn. Luma raised one hand. The barrier steadied. "I was its power before the chains," she said. "I can remain its power without them." Her voice reached the kingdom through the crystals. "The difference is consent." No one cheered at first. The idea was too simple and too large. Then the rescued miners began. Common soldiers followed. The sound moved through the arena and out into the streets. Luma walked to me. Ilara remained at my side. Tessa held 3 measuring tools, all broken. There was no romance in Luma's face. There was judgment. "You still owe me 800 units, she said. "I remember. The normal term is 1 day. "I remember that too." She looked up at the clear sky. "Your final repayment opened more than my prison. The Dominion Bell registered you as the active heavenly creditor when the church lost its authority. That title carries an older account." I did not like the direction of the sentence. Alara squeezed my hand. How old? Older than this kingdom. Luma touched 2 fingers to my forehead. The sky became black. Not night. Writing. Lines of pale light crossed from one horizon to the other. Every person in the kingdom saw the same message. Beyond the border, other lines answered above distant nations. Luma read the first account aloud. Humanity's outstanding divine balance is 1 billion mana units. The cheering stopped. Another line formed beneath it. The grace period ends in 30 days. My new limit was 10,000. The world owed 1 billion. I looked at Alara. The numbers are slightly worse than yesterday. She did not release my hand. Then we start early. Tessa adjusted a lens that no longer contained glass. I will need a larger notebook. Above us, the final line appeared. It named the person responsible for collection. Calder. Then every god in the sky demanded payment at once.